If you need a date night idea, we've got a suggestion. There's a show coming up at Liberty Magic with Hennick. He's a magician, mentalist, and humorist who specializes in personalized mysteries. He'll be performing his show, Meant to Be, from August 7th to September 1st, including illusions that explore themes like dating, marriage, and trust. Liberty Magic is Pittsburgh's premier speakeasy theater dedicated to the art of elevating magic. So if you're looking for a magical night downtown, get your tickets at trustarts.org/magic before they disappear.
Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, some local boys are putting on a good performance in Paris, but getting athletes excited about competing here, that's a little stickier. We've got the latest on Pittsburgh's so-called jock tax. Plus, we're checking in on the Trump rally investigation and decoding Kamala Harris's choice to introduce her vice presidential pick in Pennsylvania. It's August 2nd, the Friday News Roundup. I'm Mallory Falk, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. I'm here with CityCast Sophia Lowe. Hey, Sophia.
Good morning, Mallory.
So last week on our Friday News Roundup, you said you were not watching the Olympics. You did not seem invested, but that has seemed to change in the past few days. What's going on?
Okay, yes, I got caught up in all the excitement. There's a lot of fun TikToks going around. I am still not really watching the sports themselves, but like many other Americans, I was going so hard for a Pommel horse guy, aka Steven Nedorosek.
I feel like this is one of those situations where, like, this man's gravestone is just going to say Pommel horse guy. This has become his identity.
His girlfriend's Twitter bio is Ms. Pommel Horse.
There you go. Proving my point. I have seen lots of photos of this guy floating around. There's one where he's sitting on the sidelines with his eyes closed. Also one of him throwing up the peace sign. Just some instantly iconic images.
Yeah, and if you're not keeping up with the Olympics, the only thing you really need to know about Steven is that his job was pommel horse. I am going to struggle to explain what a pommel horse is without visuals, but I'm going to do my best.
I have faith in you, Sophia. You can do this.
Okay, thank you, but advanced apologies to any gymnasts I may or may not upset. So a pommel horse kind of looks like a vault, except it's got like two metal handles on it. But instead of jumping over it like you would a vault, you like spin your whole entire body around, and you've got like your hands on the handles and kind of around the handles, and you like swing your legs and do some fancy kicks while also keeping them very, very straight. Please just watch Steven instead of relying on my explanation. It looks very impressive.
Sophia, that was a very valiant effort. You get an A+ for that one.
Thank you. Well, Steven's a pommel horse specialist. That is the only event he competes in. Like, he doesn't do any of the other gymnastics things like the rings. So, that's why he had his eyes closed while his teammates were competing. And he did an amazing job. The men's gymnastics team won a bronze medal, and it's the first time, the U.S. men's team has made the podium in years. And a piece of that was thanks to Steven's performance.
Okay, and the real reason that we're discussing this, besides the fact that he is in the discourse this week, is that he actually has a Pennsylvania connection because he went to Penn State.
Yes, from Massachusetts, but I guess honorary Pennsylvania now too.
Well, listen, if he's getting us on the podium, we're going to claim him.
Exactly. He got a degree in electrical engineering, and I think we're all just also excited to see someone who's like a little nerdy. He can also solve Rubik's Cubes like really, really fast, whip off his glasses, Clark Kent style, and do these wild athletic feats.
Truly, it's a sight to behold. Another little bit of Olympic news. The U.S. won a gold medal in men's 4 rowing, and a Pittsburgher, like an actual Pittsburgher, was part of the team.
Ooh, nice. Okay, Pennsylvania rep, Pittsburgh rep, awesome.
Yeah, we've got all our bases covered. This guy's name is Michael Grady. We talked about him a little bit on the show last week when we were running through all of the Pittsburghers who are in Paris right now. He graduated from Central Catholic, and he competed in the Olympics the last time around, but they came in 5th place in Tokyo. So I'm sure he's feeling pretty amped right now, and we will be keeping an eye on any other Pittsburghers who make us extra proud.
Absolutely. Well, now that we're thinking about sports, let's talk about what happens when out-of-town athletes come to our city, since there's some updates with our city's jock tax and whether this tax is even legal.
Yes. So last week, the state Supreme Court started hearing arguments about it. If you're not familiar, this tax is technically called the facility usage fee, but obviously jock tax has a little more of a ring to it. The city's had it in place since 2005, and it is a 3% wage tax on anyone who performs here. So, if you make $100, then you've got to give the city $3.
That would really add up for some of the big performers here. Like, I'm still thinking about how wild it was when everyone came out for Taylor Swift last summer.
Yeah, she probably had to fork over quite a bit to the city, although I'm sure she made a lot in return, too.
Yeah.
Because this tax is almost 20 years old, you can imagine that lots of people have been charged over the years for it. Bands and singers, magicians, comedians, and the jock part is for athletes and sports team employees.
Yeah, magician tax does not have the same ring to it. Like you said, I think jock tax is a fun name. It makes me pay attention more when I see it in headlines instead of just like facility usage tax, facility usage fee.
Yeah, and I mean, the name might be fun and catchy, but the actual tax, as you might imagine, is not popular among our high-profile visitors.
That makes sense. I personally always am shocked when tax season rolls around, especially when I'm freelancing, and I'm like, wow, this is a lot of money I suddenly need to fork over. And I'm assuming athletes and performers feel the same way.
Yes, they want to keep their money too. So this lawsuit has actually been in court since 2019. The players' unions all signed on, and it's actually a former Penguin and then a couple other people who brought the original case.
Wait, does that mean a Pittsburgher challenged this tax for like out-of-towners?
Yes, that's one of the weird details about the tax. Even if you play for a Pittsburgh team, you still get taxed if you don't live in the city, and a bunch of local players don't, like a bunch of Steelers and Penguins. They live in the North Hills, Swickley Heights, wherever. So any non-resident who comes to perform or play at a publicly funded venue gets taxed, and that includes spaces like PPG Paints, Acrisure, PNC Park, and then also the Convention Center downtown.
I mean, it seems like the city thinks the tax is fair. They seem to feel pretty strongly about it.
I mean, it is their tax, so I think they would be in favor.
Yeah. I mean, like, they want their money, but Mayor Ed Gainey also posted about this on his Instagram recently. Like, the tone was kind of weird, though, because it sort of alluded to the city going broke again. He said they want to defend the tax because, and I'm quoting, "we are doing all that we can to ensure the financial strength and security of our city," end quote. So he goes on to say the city is going to keep collecting the tax, even while the Supreme Court is considering this case. But like, I'm thinking, does that imply the city will not be doing financially well if we can't keep this money?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I know Megan and our interim executive producer, Mary Lee Williams, talked about this. They pointed out that the city is counting on this money like for years into the future. It's in official documents. It seems like they've sort of already planned how they're going to spend it. There's been a lot of reporting in recent months about the city struggling financially, and so officially losing the jock tax would probably be another big hit for them.
I mean, I get wanting people to pay their fair share, but if I'm understanding this whole situation right, that's the question. Is it fair to make non-residents pay a wage tax to do like whatever their job is in Pittsburgh?
Right. And just to compare that to you and me, if you live in the city, Pittsburghers pay a 1% income tax and 2% school district tax. The city asked that people who come here and generate income pay a combined 3% too. But the courts have found that it's not apples to apples, that the tax violates the uniformity clause that's in our state constitution.
Okay, fair enough. So what's happening with this whole thing now?
So it's still making its way through the court system. This time, like I said, the state Supreme Court. Mayor Gainey and company have appealed the lower court's decision that it's unconstitutional to collect it on multiple grounds. But the Pennsylvania Supreme Court is only considering whether that lower court correctly interpreted our state constitution's requirement that, quote, all taxpayers must be subject to the same tax rate. The Penn Capital Star suggests it might be really hard for the higher court to side differently than the lower one, but I guess we'll see what happens.
Right. And I'm curious to see what the city's going to do, too, if they lose this revenue, like how they're going to try to make it up. Because I read that the jock tax brings in somewhere around $5 million a year.
Oof, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, maybe performers will finally come here if they think they can make more money.
Yes, Beyonce, please. We really missed you last summer. We would love to see you here in our fair city. Okay, so I get why a star like Taylor Swift might hesitate before coming to Pittsburgh if you've got to fork over a bunch of money to perform, but I don't think the jock tax applies to a presumptive presidential nominee. So in my mind, Kamala Harris has no excuse for making a campaign stop in Philly instead of Pittsburgh next week.
Okay, I mean, Philly is a bigger, more diverse city. There's more potential voters there, so I get it. But I know that Philly centrism is a sore spot for many native Pittsburghers.
I mean, listen, when we were at Open Streets last weekend, someone came up to the CityCast table and asked when Harris will be stopping in Pittsburgh, which, we work hard to bring you the news, but unfortunately, CityCast does not have a direct line to the White House. But all I'm saying is I'm sure there are some people in Pittsburgh who would love to attend a Harris rally and then maybe, go grab a pina colada after.
That's fair, but I mean, still many days before Election Day. She'll probably come here at some point.
Oh, I'm sure she will. I think part of this is also that we're kind of used to the star treatment, to being the first. Biden's first campaign stop for the 2020 election was in Pittsburgh at a Union Hall in Lawrenceville. And he's been back a bunch more times since, like to walk in our Labor Day parades for Fern Hollow, other times. But so, I think Pittsburgh wants to be important too.
Okay. But Harris's rally, this campaign rally is going to be in Philly, on Tuesday with her running mate, who as of this recording is still TBD. She's expected to announce her pick by Monday. Honestly, I kind of wonder if it's going to happen on Sunday. A lot of things have been happening on Sundays.
Yeah, including the announcement that Biden was stepping down. This will be, of course, Harris's first appearance with her running mate, and this is going to be their first stop on a 4-day tour of a bunch of swing states. So first Pennsylvania, but then also Wisconsin, Michigan, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada.
I'm seeing a lot of chatter about how it's a sign that she's picking Governor Josh Shapiro as her running mate since,
Right.
It's Pennsylvania. And I get how people are coming to this conclusion. It makes, some sense that your first appearance with your vice president would be in that person's home state. But I don't think there's really too much to read into this. I saw a tweet that was breaking down where other candidates had introduced their running mates, at least in the recent past. It was never actually in the VP's home state.
Yeah, you sent this to me, Sophia, and it was interesting to see because at first I thought, okay, not every candidate is actually from a swing state, so strategically it might make sense to introduce them somewhere else. For example, John McCain introduced Sarah Palin in Ohio instead of her home state of Alaska. But then looking at this list, there actually were people from swing states who made their first appearances somewhere else. Hillary Clinton introduced Tim Kaine in Florida, even though he's from Virginia. And Mitt Romney introduced Paul Ryan in Virginia, even though he's from Wisconsin.
And the Paul Ryan of it all is interesting to me, too, because he's an example of how there's no guarantee you can win a state solely by putting someone from that state on the ticket.
Right.
Because that year, 2012, Wisconsin went to Obama. Obviously, all sorts of different dynamics at play. But as people say, Shapiro is the choice because Pennsylvania is the state Democrats need to win. It's not like an automatic guarantee that picking Shapiro means winning Pennsylvania.
Right. In terms of who's going to show up at that rally next Tuesday, who is going to be Harris's pick, I'm kind of not making any predictions at this point. The whole campaign cycle has been so wild. I'm kind of prepared for anything to happen. The only thing I'm really preparing for is the inevitable Wawa publicity stop.
Maybe that's how this gets leaked, like someone snapping photos of Harris on her VP getting Wawa before the rally.
Someone knows Shapiro's order and they're like, it's him. We call it. Damn, it's been verified.
And just a reminder, in addition to Josh Shapiro, it looks like other top contenders for VP right now are Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona, and Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. Like you said, Mallory, though, I wouldn't be surprised if someone else ended up popping up. There have been a lot of names thrown around.
But these guys, at least, all white guys from swing states.
That is true. Well, turning to the other presidential contender, we also have a couple updates about former President Donald Trump. He was in Harrisburg earlier this week, and CBS Philly reported there was increased security presence there, like PA State Police, Secret Service, Capitol Police, more. And this is the first time he's been back to the Commonwealth since the assassination attempt at his rally in Butler. That was on July 13th.
Right. He actually kicked this off by talking about that assassination attempt and acknowledging it was his first time back. He said he wanted to thank the people of Pennsylvania for their love and support. And he also held a moment of silence for Corey Comparator, the firefighter who was killed at that rally.
Then he shifted, started talking a lot about his immigration policy, and one of his big talking points is deporting more people to where they came from. You know, that's generally been his rhetoric around this. And he also attacked Harris's record on immigration.
Yeah, I mean, in general, he's really going after Harris in terms of both policy and who she is as a person. Earlier in the day, before he came to Harrisburg, he was at the National Association of Black Journalists conference. This has gotten quite a lot of attention. He said he didn't know Kamala Harris is Black and claimed that she turned Black a few years ago.
That is so absurd. I think Mother Jones's headline about this interview really summed it up the best. It's white man tells Black journalists his Black opponent is not Black.
Just putting it plainly.
We'll link that article in the show notes if you want to read more about this and what happened exactly during that interview, but bringing it back to Pennsylvania for this show.
Right. Trump says he is going to return to Butler. He posted on Truth Social about coming back for a rally to honor Corey Comparator.
Yeah, and he also mentioned that again at his rally in Harrisburg, but Trump hasn't given any specifics about when he'd be coming back to Butler. I saw an article from KDKA where the Butler County Sheriff said that he'd be, quote, ready to assist the United States Secret Service if called upon, end quote. But, you know, he doesn't seem to have any more information than we do about a potential rally. Again, couple more months to go before Election Day. So another kind of we'll see if and when this happens kind of thing.
Right. But regardless, Butler is still making the rounds in news headlines because of the shooting. Their local district attorney has been defending Western Pennsylvania police officers after the state police commissioner told Congress that they left their post during the rally. There's been a bunch of back and forth in the press about who did what and responded where since the Secret Service director stepped down. But the Butler County district attorney told the Trib and others that it's a misstatement to characterize it as if the local police failed in some way.
And I'm sure this is another thing that's going to be updated. We'll hear more about it.
Right.
There's a bipartisan task force now doing an investigation into the assassination attempt, and the Butler County representative, Mike Kelly, is leading it. Worth also noting, he's also up for re-election this cycle.
Yes, there is so much we're going to be watching for and paying attention to in the coming weeks and months. One last update before we go. This big prisoner swap is happening between the U.S. and Russia. It's the largest one since the Soviet Union collapsed. Russia is releasing more than a dozen people, including a Wall Street Journal reporter and a former Marine. But this exchange doesn't include Mark Fogel, a local teacher from Oakmont who has been detained in Russia since 2021. So he was working in Moscow teaching diplomats' kids, and he got arrested because he had medical cannabis, which he had been prescribed here in Pennsylvania. And to tie this all into the Butler rally, his mom actually met with Trump that day. The Trib has reported this. She hoped he would call attention to Fogel's case during his speech at the rally. But if he was going to do it, you know, obviously the shooting changed everything and it didn't happen.
Yeah, I didn't realize his mom had been, you know, talking directly with Trump, but I know she's also been working with lawmakers from both parties to try to bring him back home.
Yeah, Senator Bob Casey is one lawmaker who's really been advocating for his return. Right after the exchange was announced, he released a statement urging people not to forget about Fogel. He mentioned some of the higher profile people that are part of the exchange, and he said, "While Mark's name may not be in the news every day, he is no less deserving of a reunion with his family." That's all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. A reminder that you can find all of our shows, old and new, on our website, pittsburgh.citycast.fm. Our music is by Benji, Megan Harris is our host, Sophia Lowe produces the show, Lane Fisher writes our newsletter, and I'm executive producer Mallory Falk. We'll be back on Monday with more news from around the city. Have a great weekend.
I'm going to give 30 seconds to let Pistachio get her meows out.